Media is an entertainment industry interview podcast where we interview the creative minds from the comic, film, music, and game publishing industries. And I'm your host, Kurt, and we're joined today by JohnCrye and Paul Hungerford from FEWDIO.com. And how are you guys doing?
Very well, thanks, Kurt. Thanks for having us.
Excellent. Yes, thank you for having us.
The major question is at the beginning, what's the summary of FEWDIO?
I think it's fair to say that FEWDIO is what brought us here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we should.
But our geekdom is how FEWDIO came to be. I mean,
that's true.
It's our passions that kind of caused FEWDIO to erupt and become what it was is a collective of filmmakers telling stories.
And I think that's a really good point, Paul. That it was because of the geekiness that we got started. I think that as well that it's because it is it's all stuff that we really want to do. It's all stuff that we enjoy doing, that we've always done. I mean, Paul and I, before we ever were doing FEWDIO together, we were in a couple of different D&D groups together. We acted in theater in college together. There is a passion for storytelling and production that, the way that experiment got started was in 2007 during the writer's strike. And basically you had a bunch of writers and directors who legally could not make money. And, which was nice to have an excuse, but to not make money. But when we were on that strike, and basically everyone's twiddling their thumbs and frustrated, we decided, well, we're going to do something that we want to do for no other reason than because it's something that we're passionate about and we can't kind of help but do anyway. That first set of productions that we did it was the same as getting together for a poker night or a D&D night. It was a bunch of guys getting together at each other's houses and telling stories, just happened to do it on camera. And because
I think it was John's
I'm sorry, Paul?
I was just going to say, John, I think it was John's garage that actually had the first FEWDIO name on it. It was called FEWDIO Stages.
Yep. Yep. And that's true. And we had a number of films shot in that garage. Actually, that's something that I think is a great trivia question. Can you guess which of those episodes are actually in that garage, and actually even on the same set as the other ones in that garage. That's, I think that one of the reasons why the FEWDIO work connected with people in the way it did. We've had really fortunately great experiences to go to Comic-Con and other festivals and conventions, both, general and, horror specific and genre specific stuff. That in meeting people and meeting fans that really like that material, is that they can tell that we're fans too, and we're doing it because we enjoy it. And hopefully, if you're doing something because you enjoy it, the joy of making it comes off of it. And at least that's the difference between the kinds of stuff that I really enjoy and the kinds of stuff that I really don't. Is when you can tell that people did it because they love it or because they were doing it collecting a paycheck.
Right. Yeah. Well, great show, guys. Thank you.
Love it. All right, that's a wrap. So what's the... No, I'm just kidding. I didn't even actually get into the introduction, but I'll just let you guys go. Normally I have a set way I do things, but hey, that's all good.
You can throw that right out the window, my friend.
Yeah. All right. So let's get Actually, no, it's a great point because just seeing the group that you have with yourself, John, Paul, and I'm almost expecting Ringo and someone else to join in too. Just don't let Yoko get into the play there. But
no, we've got rid of Yoko. She's and our Yoko would end up being a stream. Yeah, we'd probably dip her in blood. Is probably what we'd do if we had a Yoko. Exactly. We'd be like, "You're in a scene, cover in blood."
See how long she enjoys that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You like it, don't you? You want to be a star.
Here's your 15 minutes. There you go. Or however long the scene is. Oh, darn, right. Cutting room floor. Go figure.
Yeah, sorry. These things happen.
That's the biz. But talk about, let's go with you, Paul, since John really went in depth into how you guys got together with FEWDIO. But you're the comedian. You've been in the comedy industry. Is how you started, I believe.
Yeah, that's kind of where my roots are. Is I started off in comedy, and I still do comedy. I still perform comedy live at least 2 or 3 times a week. But I've also I'm a geek at heart. I have been for a million years, and as John was saying, from D&D to board games to video games and just all around love of science fiction, horror, all the genre joy of growing up in the 80s. There was so much great genre work done in that early 80s, and it really affected our generation, and it had a profound effect on us. I mean, we worship Star Wars to this day. I mean, people still are, episode 1 apologists, who we are. And so all that being said, how horror kind of manifested from that is, I believe, and I think I learned this during FEWDIO. I don't think I had the knowledge going into it, but I feel like horror and comedy are 2 sides of the same coin. You're still building tension and releasing it just differently. And I think that's why so much comedy can be mixed with horror successfully, whether it's the Evil Dead series, or what is it? I'm going to blank on the name. Versus Evil, is it Bob and
Tucker and Dale.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And even Josh Whedon. Shaun of the Dead is a perfect example. And even Josh Whedon has so much of that. Has a lot of comedy inside a lot of the storytelling that he does, which it tends to be rather dark storytelling.
From a marketing perspective, and I've spent a good deal of the last decade and a half that I've been doing, been in the entertainment industry. Marketing has been a big part of that. It was interesting to me because, the 3 genres that don't require a big budget or big stars are comedy, horror, and porn. And that's because all 3 of them either work or they don't. It's either funny or scary or gets you off or it doesn't. And so when you had a group of people that were going to be producing, we really wanted to, do a series of shorts. And of course, that ended up, those shorts ended up becoming episodes in an anthology as we started to tie some of the stories and elements together. I think one of the reasons we came to that, Paul was, when I first moved to Los Angeles, was in a group called The Players to Be Named Later. And I was in a comedy team called Daily Crye, and we would do shows together. And we were basically, both of us were working in the midst of a lot of different comedy groups, but there really weren't any horror groups. And when we started shooting stuff, this was 2007, 2008, there was a lot of comedy online, but there really wasn't a lot of horror. Certainly not short horror, and certainly not short horror that was done well. So we kind of took that as a challenge, and I think that's one of the reasons why we got into that genre.
And to add on to that, I would also that's a great point as to why, but I think also to the type of storytelling we were doing. We were coming out of the early part of the 2000, and what's the word I'm looking for? Torture porn was, torture porn was so in the front of everybody's psyche of what was going on. And everyone was trying to emulate that and wanted to tie girls up in electrical cords and wrap them up and then slowly cut them to shreds. In my opinion, it's a horrifying thought though that's a horrifying thing to imagine and think about or view on a screen. But to me, there's way more horror out there. There's way more interesting stories to tell. And I think that's why we kind of took on like a Twilight Zone with blood mentality. We wanted story to reveal the horror more so than just shove everyone's, like, it's like, you know, shoving the dog's nose in it in the carpet. It's like, here's the horror. Clark, you take the horror. Here it is. I'm putting it in your face. You know, it's like.
Well, also, you know, okay. I think it's because, you know, coming from a position of being writers as well, there isn't anything particularly interesting once you get past the setup in that kind of storytelling. There isn't anything interesting there to do. You know, when we first started doing the episodes, the shorts, 2007, 2008, there was even a time buffer on YouTube that you couldn't get. I think it was around 4 minutes, Paul. Was what the buffer was. So you know, there was this limitation we had to work within as well. So it became this great challenge of what kind of story can you actually create in that amount of time, and the things that seemed to start to lend themselves were these sort of Twilight Zone reveal kind of stories. You know, you could get just enough tension and then have a frightening reveal in that amount of time.
And you know, we were working on a no budget, self-financed mentality, and that means that we had one location.
Yeah.
You know, John's garage. We make John's garage everything we need it to be, so we can't set our stories in multiple places. It has to be one location. You know, I think Marie is a good example of, like, it's one location, but we get away with so much because we were able to take advantage of the surrounding areas of your house.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like,
there's a lot of driving in that one.
That's true too.
There's a lot of driving in that one too. So we could kind of make it feel as though there was more going on because there's also some stuff in the car.
Right.
Well,
so yeah,
I have to ask this though, because I'm not a horror person. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I've never been, you know, I can appreciate a Freddy Krueger for the sense of, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. I can appreciate the sense of that was an iconic 80s film.
Sure.
Similar to the first Jason film. Of course, I'm blanking on overall names,
right.
But for a suspense aspect, yes, Jason Voorhees, right? For a suspense aspect, for what it was given for sort of a long-running series, I enjoy those types of films, just not for its brutality, but for the thinking horror that is very prevalent with FEWDIO. When those Saw films came out, I think it was only the second or maybe the third one I actually sat down in a movie theater and saw, and for the what was going to happen, not for the you know, hey, how do we cut a hand off aspect of it. You know, that made me think as to, okay, well, what was going to happen? How is this going to end? How is the story going to loop back to the beginning with, you know, with the detective and all that other stuff? It came down to, you know, I was actually thinking that those types of films, a lot of people get desensitized though with violence, and it's loses the horror aspect.
Yeah, I think that you can only see a tooth get wrenched out in close up so many times before it's just, you know, okay, what else you got?
Yeah.
You know, and desensitizing people to violence is the last thing we want to do. If anything,
right.
that just ends up burning out your audience. You want to make them as sensitive as possible and keep them sensitive. That's the only way that what you're doing is going to have any sort of relevance or continue to work for you.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like the Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger's the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and then Saw. Personally, you know, just for me, all the ones in those series, you know, the episode, the first movies, to me were always the better movies. Because they were so original, so unique, so different inside the genre that it was fun. It's fun to get chased by Jason Voorhees. Well, it's fun to watch those kids get chased by Jason Voorhees, you know, because, you know, it's terrifying. The boogeyman, the unknown figure, the godlike power of this frightening creature that has so much primal effect on us, on our psyche. That's a lot of fun. The idea that you can't sleep and that your dreams are becoming a reality. That's so wonderfully terrifying.
Well, that was also that was a great that first Nightmare was really a great fantasy film. That whole if you go sleep you can't sleep, and that if you do, he's got all these crazy fucking powers. I mean, that's that went so far beyond. I remember watching that actually the first time I saw it, and I actually saw it on VHS. And that scene, he's coming down the alley, and his arms get all long. I just about crapped myself. I got behind the couch. I mean, it was because I'd never seen. That was taking that sort of unrelenting nemesis idea and taking it to a place that I just had never imagined before. I was really, really taken in by that one.
I think what's really scary is you're old enough to remember VHS.
Yeah.
Don't look at Crye.
We can only see your picture, so we can.
Oh, good. Oh, well, plenty of Crye.
Yeah, was it Photoshop there?
Yeah, I think that and I even not to kind of go back to the torture porn concept. What Eli Roth, right? He did Hostel, right? I thought. Yep. He gets a lot of credit, in my opinion, for tapping into the psyche at the time and telling that first movie was tense. That was a tense film. Mm-hmm. And I even part two, he succeeds at flipping the whole thing and manipulating the idea of what you're going to see for the second time. Because most people just tell the same story again for part two. But I think like 1 and 2 were really good. But those are the only 2 I ever need to see again. I don't need to see any more of those kinds of films.
Well, the problem with I think that subgenre, number one, it wasn't, none of those films were built to be a series. They just weren't. They became successful and became a series. But they were simple concepts that I think there have been some good extrapolations from the concept, some that have been pretty decent, but I like finite storytelling. I like stories that have a beginning and a middle and an end. And if a story doesn't have an end, there's no more point to it. There's no context to anything you're seeing. So if you get a sense that, well, this could just keep on going forever, there could be 15 or 20 or 30 of these so long as the money keeps coming in. It makes the storytelling start to get floppy to me, and I start getting impatient. All right, where's the point? I think that that's why I've always loved miniseries and British series that are short as opposed to American series or just episodic television, because there is no beginning, middle, beginning, middle, and an end structure to American television is anathema. It's the last thing they want us to say that there's an end, because what if the money is still going at that point? So I think that that was also something that was really nice about the Nightmare House series, was that we knew that each one of these little things was going to be so succinct. That we could bring back characters if we wanted to, and there are certain themes and locations and ideas that sort of thread. There are even some characters that thread through some of these little things in a very background way, but we never wanted to get trapped into the idea of, okay, well, here's this one killer, and he's going to come back again, and now he's going to get you with a weed whacker. It just gets dull.
Here comes the grizzled detective trying to figure out who's done it. And he's in a loveless marriage, except he's in love with a guy named Jack Daniels.
He's going to walk into shot, and there's going to be blue and red light flickering on his face, and he's going to look at the bald guy in the trench coat, and he's going to take a sip of cold coffee and say, all right, what do we got? And then the guy's going to say, I'll tell you what I got. I got a lousy cup of coffee. And then they'll laugh, and then they'll go over and look and see what's on the sheet.
Look, there's a dead body. And then eventually he'll do something wrong outside the lines. And that chief will say, I want your badge. And you're gone. You're going on vacation. Take 2 weeks. Go sit in the sun.
But the killer's still out there. What am I going to do on vacation?
That's right.
I'm
when he
in,
continues working.
I just had the mayor on the phone. Yeah, exactly. Do you know how much damage you caused in that? Blah, blah, blah.
I don't know. How much did Arnold do last week? What's the pool at?
I think it was fun to play. The Nightmare House also allowed us, and telling us we could we could take advantage of the genre or whatever we were trying to tell stories about, like the Grizzled Detective, or the what you think is the main story turns out to not at all be what we're talking about. I think I think back on I'm blanking on the name of the movie. This is terrible. I can see the movie in my head. Well, we were talking about Marie. What I loved about Marie was the idea that you had John's character is this burned out assassin, or we assume he's some kind of an assassin. And what was fun is we took that character and instead of putting him in just another assassination story, we put him in a ghost story. That to me was different. It was unique, and that was exciting.
I enjoyed as well. Curse, which was the first episode that we shot, opens up with another hitman conversation, and it seems very much like it's going to be this sort of contract killer noir story. I've got this $10,000 for you to kill somebody, and then the guy says, I want you to kill me, and it takes this sort of left turn. And that, I think, is something that brought us all together as writers as well, was that we all liked the left turn. We all liked taking the third option, that maybe if we were writing something which was longer or writing something that was more involved or had to be commercial in some way, we never would have made that turn. Right. But having the freedom to make that turn, I think it started to, for all of us as creators, it gave us more confidence to make those kinds of weird choices that, fortunately ended up being appealing to people.
Kurt?
Yes.
Do you have a bird?
I do, yes.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah. What kind of bird is it?
It's a parakeet that I have ready to go into the oven at 250.
Actually, it's quite nice. It's a nice sound. It sounds like it's very peaceful over there and relaxed. Everything's fine.
That, and then there's that. But wait till he starts whistling. Trust me, you'll hear.
I do.
Right now, he's currently chewing on birdseed, but when he starts whistling,
telling you about it, he's like, this is the best birdseed you've ever given me, Kurt. This is some good stuff.
Wait till I lace it with vodka, then we'll have a really fun bird. I can't do refresh now. I'm trying to flap my wings. I'm flying. But you're on a perch.
I enjoy parakeet with a little vodka sauce.
Yes. It's
Holly just wants some goddamn peace.
Puts his beak under his wing, and he just, it's too bright. Close the blinds. Yeah.
Polly wants some Advil.
There's another parakeet leaving, like walk of shame. He's got its feathers all underneath its wings, like, call me.
How do you move on from a parakeet? I just love them and leave them, and they fly away. Go figure. Go back to your cage. I'm done with you now.
I'm done with. There's money on the dresser.
Moving on from parakeet action, but
can you?
I don't know.
John started with the porn reference at the beginning. So.
That's true. I did open that can of worms, and I don't mean to say can of worms to open up any other visual imagery. Sorry about that.
Well, let's get back on track.
Yes.
Here.
Sure, please.
As much as we can. Now, you guys, this isn't just about FEWDIO, though. You've been in the industry for at least 10, 15 plus years in various, as executive producers, as actors even, for that matter. What is it about LA that brings out your creativity?
I think LA brought our creativity to it. we, speaking just at least for the two of us on this call, attended Emerson College in Boston, which I like to call the Diesel Institute of Communications, because it's an entirely hands-on school. I got accepted to BU, and the reason why I ended up going to Emerson instead was because BU told me that if I wanted to, because I was an acting major, that I wouldn't even be able to set foot on a stage until my junior year. And meanwhile, Emerson was saying, if you want to come in and write a play and produce it and direct it on stage your first week here, great, do it. And there was a great deal of empowerment for creators there. And that's actually, I met Paul there, but we did not really work together until we were in Los Angeles. But a huge amount of our graduating class ended up either going to New York or LA because we were specifically trained for the entertainment industry. And there is in Los Angeles, there's a sort of a joking euphemism, although it's somewhat true, that there is an Emerson mafia. That when you get out to Los Angeles, you connect to your Emerson connections and they'll set you up. And my first job, I have to say that did work for me. My first job in the industry was at Summit Entertainment, which of course is a huge company now. They're just bought by Lionsgate. They came really into their own in the last several years with the Twilight series. At the time that I was working there about 16 years ago, they were strictly a foreign sales company, just selling, the foreign rights to various films to foreign distributors. And I got that job because my freshman and sophomore year roommate from Emerson was working there as a story editor and made the introductions. And, it is who you know, even in the unglamorous positions of assistants. It is who you know, getting you in the door. And, I think that even though I had never really anticipated having trained as an actor and having run a theater company and a comedy team in Boston, I hadn't anticipated that I was going to get into film sales. But I found that I actually really enjoyed it. And then that ended up going for me, moving me from sales into development and production, and then later acquisitions and marketing. So it was sort of an accidental thing, at least for me, that I was looking for a day job while trying to get acting gigs, and before I knew it, I actually was enjoying the day job, or at least I was more successful at the day job than I ever was as an actor. If you want to talk to someone who has had success as an actor, that's the other guy on the line right now.
Well, Emerson College, I have the same response to that school. At the time that I went, they allowed, I went to a junior college first because my high school career was borderline, mentally retarded. I was not the person I became in college. I was there I had no direction in high school. I was very miserable. It sounds so corny now to say it out loud, but like at the time I was, in a college preparatory school, but I was a creative. I just had no idea I was a creative because everyone was telling me I was supposed to be something else. I was supposed to fit into this, get your job, put on your suit and tie and go to work. And that really wasn't who I was. And then when I got to go to Emerson, that's where I kind of found myself. And Emerson allowed me to study acting as well as study film. And I was surrounded by people like JohnCrye, Dave Snyder, Mike DeLonzo, all these different people that I've had to, who are part of FEWDIO in some way. Dave, obviously one of the main founders of FEWDIO, and Mike DeLonzo, who starred in it, but allowed me to express myself. And then I was like, oh, I'm surrounded by my people. And I could perform on stage. I could perform comedy. I could go and make a film in class. I could study film, the things that I was passionate in love. And I went from a kid in high school who was, basically C's, D's, and F's to graduate Emerson College with honors, basically. And even my mom was like, "What the heck happened to you? What turned you around?" And really was being allowed to be creative at my pace and how and where I wanted to. And Emerson granted me that. And to this day, I have some of my closest friends, but also some of the most talented people I've had the luck of working with. There's James Ferguson. I just ran into my friend Jen Cohen yesterday, who's a big voiceover artist.
Was Jen out here?
She was for a blip. She was
okay.
in New York, and I just happened to run into her at work, yesterday. It was just one of those great moments. You're like, wow, you're extremely successful. I haven't seen you in a couple of years. I'm so happy to run into you. I'm so happy to run into
awesome.
you.
I love
really
her.
is
That's
awesome.
great.
She's incredibly talented, and anyways,
very cool.
Long story, even longer. When I came out here, it was because of Emersonians who kind of said, look, you got to get your feet on the ground if you want to pursue an acting career. Make sure you have a job first. And so I went into production because I had studied film. So basically, I was able to step into a production job so that I could learn more about how the system worked to become an actor, because I studied at a school that allowed me to cover both my knowledge of acting, or learn about acting, and learn about production. So technically, I've been working in the entertainment industry for close to 20 years, and I think I held a waitering job for a year, which is, thank God it was only a year, because I'm horrible at it, like horrible. Oh, it's just terrible. People didn't leave me tips; they gave me money to go away. It was unbelievable. And thankfully, production I was comfortable in that. I was comfortable, being on set and long hours, and you work your butt off. But I loved it, and I'm really grateful for it. I learned a lot. I apply a lot of that knowledge as an actor, but also suddenly here's FEWDIO. Here we are making these short films and telling stories together and saying, hey, well, what about if we move the camera over here? We could put the light up here. We only need this. Well, why don't we do that? And hey, I know some actors who could play this, like Michelle Gardner, who is a good friend of ours who went to Emerson before she went to NYU to graduate. But, we've asked, she's been in a couple of our films, and it's just a giant community. I'm really grateful for it.
And that's interesting, because for myself, I'm at a point in my career where I've been in IT for 20 years. I've helped and talked with people. I enjoy, and this has been a great hobby of mine. And by hobby, I mean I'm trying to make this a business, because that's how it works out. But talking with you guys has just been an eye-opening thing, because I want to do more radio, more TV production. I've written stories, how do you put that out creatively? How do you, who do you showcase this to?
Well, I think that Kurt, we're living at the perfect time for this kind of thing. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I remember saying to someone that I regretted that it wasn't 1918, because back then, I'm a big Buster Keaton fan, but back then, if you wanted to be involved in the industry, you showed up at Max Sennett's studio and you waited for somebody to hand you a rope to pull. And that's how you did it. And, I got out here, and there was that sense of, wow, there's this big entrenched industry. But the fact is, especially in the last, 5 to 10 years, there's no such thing as Hollywood. Hollywood exists only in the way the Iraqi government exists. It's sort of, it's an idea, and then there are all these crazy factions that work within the landscape, but there is no Hollywood per se. The studios can't afford to make films. They have to, they're buying the films from the independents and distributing them. They exist only as distribution systems, and the independents are able to make more for less. And frankly, the film industry is being affected the same way as the music industry. That the ability to create quality content, and now the ability to distribute it and to market it on your own. I mean, look at this podcast that you're doing is something that you can put together. You can do it at your own time, your own schedule, at your own budget, and then you can distribute just as easily as anyone else. Just as easily as if you're ABC or NBC or Universal, you're getting it out there, and then it's really just about the marketing and how you're attracting your audience. So while there is still always an uphill battle for the the new creator or the person who's doing something independently, that uphill has always been there. But right now, more so than ever, there are actually tools to help you get up the damn hill that we've never had before. So if this is what you're wanting to do, and this is really how you want to do it, I say go for it, because it's never been so feasible.
And don't doubt, and also there's something we said that you are doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah.
It may not be financially you want it yet, but it will be. And the more you do it, the better you become at it. Eventually, I think it will. And I hope I'm not revealing some trade secret here, Kurt. But I know that you're out looking for sponsors. I know that you're eager to get somebody to support what you're doing, and I think that's smart. I think that's the way it works, because everything that John just talked about, I think we're watching it kind of distance itself from the people who are out there actually, you know what, I don't need you anymore. I'll figure it out. I've got Twitter. I've got Facebook. I've got social media. It used to be like, I remember doing Players of the Game Later shows, our sketch group. And, we'd invite our friends and we'd have a couple of sold out shows, and it felt really good. But then that was it, because you used up all your friends for those shows. That was the
right.
end of it. You had 4 killer Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or 2 shows on Saturday. It was awesome. Huge success. Well, that's it, So now
next Thursday, you're playing the chairs.
Exactly. So now I feel like you can now, even if it's a small level, I could get, let's say I had 100 people show up for those shows. Now I might be able to get 200, because I can access the second level of friends that are out there. And I think that's the reason you're seeing so much creative going on right now. I think there's a lot of very unique things.
If I can provide an example that I think, I can provide some numbers here that'll make it a little bit clear. I can't provide some exact numbers simply because I'm contractually bound not to. But I've worked in film distribution. Yes, 4. The number is 4. Great, Paul. Thanks a lot. Here come the lawyers. Now, the marketing and distribution that I was involved in for a number of years, I worked with a number of companies over the last 15 years doing film distribution here in the U.S., which involved both development, production, as well as acquisitions, going out to film festivals, scouting films, meeting filmmakers, and then negotiating to purchase the distribution rights for those films to then distribute them in theaters here in the U.S. And one of the last film that I worked on the distribution and marketing for was a film called Hesher that I think in Canada was released by Alliance, and pretty sure it was Alliance. Here in the U.S., it was released by Reek and Hill, which was the last company that I worked for back in April. And it was a Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Natalie Portman, Rainn Wilson film called Hesher. And when we opened that film, because it was a little independent company, we had, I'm just going to say, less than $1 million to release the film. And we opened the film in 25 markets. And in the way we opened it, basically knowing that we could not afford television, we couldn't afford radio, we could afford some newspaper, but newspaper doesn't make a damn bit of difference anymore. Couldn't afford really even like bus stop and billboards, for the cities we were going into. But we opened the film like here in Los Angeles. It opened at the ArcLight, and even though it opens in the ArcLight against Thor and these massive studio films, Hesher opening with less than $1 million, and all of our campaign only on Facebook. It was a Facebook and Twitter campaign only, and we still opened number 3 at the ArcLight. Right behind Thor. I can't even guess how much they spent on marketing, but I am going to say that it's reasonable to assume that it was 200 to 300 times more money than we spent, and yet we opened right behind them. Now, we didn't perform that well in every market that we played, but in New York and Los Angeles and Austin and Boston, we were opening, in the top 5. And that's amazing that a little tiny film, which is a strange film as well. It's a great film if you haven't seen it, Hesher, but very strange little movie with no money spent behind it. But Facebook really brought it home, and I'm incredibly excited that that's the world we're living in now.
I loved it. I thought it was a great film. I enjoyed the blazes out of it.
Yeah, it's something I'll have to see because I'd never heard of it actually. So, and yet I saw Thor. So.
Where's your Facebook now, Crye?
Well, I was not in charge of the Canadian marketing effort, so I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, that's right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I don't know if it actually got up this way.
Yeah, I know
maybe Toronto at most. But.
I have a feeling that it played Toronto and Vancouver, and that might have been it.
Pretty much, yeah. Those are the only two major cities apparently that matter next to Montreal. But
it didn't play Moose Jaw or Medicine Hat, so far as I know.
Well, there you go. You just lost. or Kamloops. You forgot the Kamloops?
No, I don't think it did.
Jeez, you
Canada is the greatest country in the world. They have a place called Medicine Hat.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh, I mean, come on, dude. If we want to go through major cities, we'll go East Coast to West Coast, and I'm sure you'll find some that'll be perfect for a comedy name.
John and I were in a film called Stark Raving Mad that we both. That was an enjoyment. We had a great time.
We did. We were roommates on that film in Vancouver, staying at the Sutton Place in Vancouver, and that was a really good time. We enjoyed the heck out of the Canadian people and your lax drug laws.
Yes, very lax. A lot of coats available over the counter.
Oh yeah. It's like a running thing. Come to Canada, buy the codeine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to kind of button that conversation with. We get a lot of emails and a lot of feedback from people out there saying, "I want to do what you do. I love what you guys do. I want to making films here. Look at my films." And a lot of times, and I guess it's kind of cheap, but like I don't always have the time to sit back and respond to everybody, and that's definitely my fault. I'm just not that organized. But I have to say this: no matter what, if you're out there, it doesn't really matter if you can get the financial success. If you're expressing yourself creatively and trying as much as you can to do what you're passionate, love it, and something you love, that other stuff will come.
But the thing is, you have to ask yourself why you're doing it. I mean, so the people that write to us, that would write and say, I want to do what you're doing. I'm just, went and shot this film in my backyard. You're already doing what we're doing then.
Right.
Right. You're already doing that. And so if you're saying, well, what I want to do is I want to make money, well, that's a totally different thing. If you're saying that you want to have, that you want to make things, make them.
Right. Yeah, Sam Raimi's a perfect example. He made Book of the Dead in his backyard, yep. and then eventually remade the movie again as Evil Dead, and then remade the movie again as Evil Dead 2. And, it's not like this isn't a new concept. Yeah, that's a great point, John.
If you're doing it, you're doing it. What else do you want? And if you're doing it and you're not happy, ask yourself why you're not happy. Are you not happy because you're not happy with the way it was created, or are you not happy because you're not making money off of it? The American dream, and I'm sure the Canadian dream as well, is that you can do something that you love and make money from it. And that's a great dream. And it would be great if we could all support ourselves doing something that we love. It's awfully difficult to make a living at all in this day and age. Mm. So forget about the making a living part and just do what you love so that at least you can be happy. Because I'd rather be happy.
I think the major thing is, I've always said this, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but I've always said, if I love my hobbies, and if my hobbies become a job, it's time to find a new hobby. Yeah,
that's a great way of saying that. It's something that we were talking about a little bit before, Kurt, and it might have been actually before we started the recording, but. in talking about the industry seems the entertainment industry seems very tough. And I stand by what I said in the comparison to the Iraqi government, that there isn't an industry that you're going to make it in where there is some sort of ladder that you're going to climb, and you're going to be able to say, hierarchically and empirically speaking, I can now say I'm on level 9 of this industry. It doesn't work that way. You're gonna do the work that you're going to do. You're going to get the recognition that you're going to get, and you're going to make the money that you're going to make. But there isn't an industry. So if you're doing what you want to do, wherever you're doing it, you don't need to worry about what the industry is. You can bypass that entirely, because they really, other than money to invest in you, they don't have anything you want. And frankly, you can find people to invest in you from outside of the industry. But I guess what I'm saying is fuck Hollywood. You don't need them.
Yeah. Fuck them.
And that's been, I think, my major thing with this is, I've built up the brand. I love the people I talk to, because, I've always been, let me grab the most creative people possible without getting arrested and get them on the show. And really what it comes down to is I like picking their brains. I like hearing their life and what they're doing and what they're enjoying. And, this has been a blast. I love it, because you're reaffirming my fact that I'm thinking of going back to university. I want to, get a degree. And is there a way I can combine my computer, social skills, and this product that I've built up into, something like, hey, look, I have a degree now. I can keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, if that degree, exposes you to stuff that you want to be exposed to, like, I've actually applied just recently to a program at USC that I would like to go back to school, because I've really become incredibly interested in augmented reality and some new technologies that allow for interactive storytelling and nonlinear storytelling, which is one of my favorites. And I don't have the technological background. I don't necessarily want to be a coder or a programmer, but I need to know how it works. And I want to meet the people and work with the people who do know how it works. And so by applying to that program and knock on wood, getting into that program, I'll surround myself with those people that are doing what it is that I want to learn about. So if you're getting involved in a program at university that exposes you to new information and gets you excited and changes your own creative output in a positive way, then I say do it. That's great. But just remember that we're in an entirely existential landscape right now, and you can do whatever you want to do. The level of, quote unquote success that you achieve, you need to define what that is that you're going for from the beginning.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if Paul wanted to add anything to that.
I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to add. You were talking about things that you enjoy. I was going to comment on that, but John, that was pretty wide, man. Yeah. I'm not going to add anything, Your Honor. I rest my case.
Well, all right then. Well, let's go into some things that you guys enjoy, because obviously, you touched upon it as we've been conversing, and really it comes down to, your geekiness. You both are geeky. It's evident. I can see in the background, Paul. I think you're a bit of a geek. I have to say.
Yeah, the giant wall of games over here, and then all my Lord of the Rings and all my books and geek movies. Yeah, you can turn it and see it just keeps going. There's more and more. There's just so much geekdom back there. It's kind of crazy. I love it. And it's funny because I think how John and I became friends all the way back in college, though we were doing comedy and though I was sleeping with his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's really how we met, by the way.
and John walked in and was like, I really didn't want to go out with her anymore. I'm glad you saved me the problem. I'm like, great, okay. But all seriousness, we're geeks. We're Star Wars nuts. We've argued. I can't tell you the amount of hours that we have gone through of arguing about Star Wars, or just being, discussing ways of making Dungeons and Dragons more interesting, or John's take on when John is your DM, your perspective on the world, he makes you think differently. You're not just walking around hacking and slashing. He makes you think about the world you live in, and I think that's exciting on a geek level. You can tell a story just sitting around and it's funny to me that Dungeons and Dragons has made such a huge resurgence. It has become as popular now as it was when I was 12 years old. And it's
except now you don't get beaten up for it.
That's right. Now you can talk to girls who play. That blows my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
That that you can talk to a girl about comics now. That's insane to me.
I dropped just yesterday. I dropped a photo on my Facebook because I've got an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old, and my 11-year-old.
Oh, I'm old.
Yes, but my 11-year-old has started playing, and I've been DMing for him, and I dropped a photograph of miniatures, of their party on the little mat that we have on the table. I've got a grease pen mat that I can draw the little map in there, and I dropped a picture on my Facebook of that, and I was startled by the number of people that responded to it. That I didn't even know played or were interested, and that are now kind of flying their geek flags and admitting openly that they've been role players. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Here's how much of a geek I am. I am presently on chapter 32 of A Dance with Dragons with George R.R. Martin. And I can't stop playing Skyrim because it's like playing a video game version of Game of Thrones. I absolutely love it.
Yep.
And and then of course I've gone out and put my down payment on my Diablo 3. I'm waiting for SSX to come out on Tuesday. I am a total full-fledged geek. It's so wonderful. It's a good time to be a geek too.
Did you take an arrow to the knee playing Skyrim yet?
An arrow to the knee? No.
Oh,
something that
it's a reference in the game.
I catch the reference. I catch the reference. Yes.
Oh, damn.
Seriously.
Oh, damn. I don't.
Go up to a guard, start talking to him, and at some point in time, he'll say in his very poor Arnold-like accent that is supposed to be Swedish or whatever, not like the Swedish chef in the Muppets, but close enough. He'll go, I used to be an adventurer like you, but I took an arrow to the knee. Now I'm a guard. I'm like, okay, so...
That's all it takes.
Then I took an arrow to the knee. That's brilliant. That's great.
And so I stopped. I was an archer in Skyrim, and I beat it as well, 360 here. But I stopped doing headshots with being an archer because it was too easy. So I started literally aiming for their knees, no matter what race.
Awesome.
The physics engine is really well done too, because bodies can fly off of a mountain and hit a dragon. It is true.
Yeah. Let me ask you. So you got the 360, right? So now they say they're coming out with the Xbox 370.
Yep, it's 720 or something.
Oh, okay, the 7. Because I heard 370, and I was like, really, guys? It's like saying you're coming out with the iPhone 4S. Really. Not really much of a bump there, is it? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll be great, whatever it is. But,
yeah, there's a lot of speculation about it, but we'll see what happens with that. But that type of game, like literally, I have Dark Souls. I've played all of Skyrim. I've done Fallout 3. When you put 500 hours into Fallout 3, you're a bit of a gamer. So
yeah, really.
I'll tell you one thing though.
Yeah,
I've never had to download a patch for a dice bag.
No. It's funny too because like I play video game now, but I have to play late at night because I have a family and a daughter, and so I end up playing like at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So like I'll be playing the video game, and just kind of nod off, kind of fall asleep, and wake up and my horse is running into a wall, in the middle of town. I'm like, all right, maybe I should turn this off.
That's the problem with being an old gamer. I had the number of times that the number of times that I've found my Master Chief sitting in a warthog, like, up against a mountain. Yeah, exactly. Oh, what? Oh, right.
What? I'm up.
Sorry.
I'm up.
Save the world, save the world.
Save the world, save the world, save the world, save the world.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I remember a couple of years ago we were playing D&D, and we just had a marathon session. It was the kind of day you could just put a good 8 or 9, 12 hours in, and time shot by. I mean, it was just. I remember that it like came to a conclusion. Everyone was exhausted. It was like 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, playing all day, and I just feel like that was quick. How did that happen?
Yep.
Whereas video games, I can put in a couple. Don't get me wrong, people. I can really put in some hours, but it's like the time is different for me. Somehow I feel more involved with the human beings around the table than I do the pixels.
Yeah, that's one of the proudest moments of my life was a conversation with my kids where they were like, I really like Skyrim. They play RuneScape as well, and they're like, the tabletop is better because it's far more intuitive and free flowing, and you can do whatever you want. And the fact that even the incredible graphics that exist these days don't beat the imagination, I think is still a wonderful thing.
That was the one thing I've never actually done is I've never sat down and I've never done a D&D game. I guess I'm not a true geek then in that case.
No, you are. You read comics, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, then that's it. You're in.
That counts.
That's really that's the universal. I think that's the universal bloodline for geeks. Is like, have you ever read a comic? Yes. Well, yeah, you're fine. You're in. And and that's another thing. Like comics has been a huge part of my life for so long, and it's funny to me to now see things like Stephen King is now being put into comics, and I'm like, it took you guys that long to figure that one out. Like how that it blows my mind to things like that coming back around to landing in the geek environment like that.
Well, I think the major thing is, though, I don't. Do you get to read web comics or comics on the internet?
I do. I read a couple. I have a friend of mine, Bill Walko, who is okay. John doesn't. So that's the end of that conversation.
No, I just said I didn't. That's all.
Okay.
I do a little bit.
Paul, you going?
Not a ton. I do. I read Devils Inside. I read, and I read my friend Bill Walko's Hero Company. A Company of Heroes, and I might be saying that name wrong, Bill. I'm really sorry. That was a lousy plug. But I do. I read some. I don't read a ton.
I have to admit, I have read a couple of episodes of Devil Inside, Todd Stashwick's book online, but that's really the only online that I've read. I'm a very tactile person. I still very much like paper. And I fucking hate trees. I just want to turn them all into books, so that's me.
Comic book stores for me are there's two places that I get a lot of inspiration from just walking through. I don't have to read anything. I could just go in and kind of wander around and get story ideas just from being in the presence of it. It's like that and Goodwill. For some reason, Goodwill to me is a place filled with items, and I feel like I can walk around a Goodwill or something like that and find something unique and be like, wow, where'd this come from? What's the story behind this? And that kind of tends to inspire me quite a bit. And actually, on 9/11, I was shooting a commercial out in St. Louis, and when 9/11 happened, while we were shooting on an overnight, and the next day I was so uncomfortable. I'm sure like everybody was. The only place I felt any kind of sense of safety was the local comic book shop in the area. I probably spent 6 or 7 hours just hanging out in there, reading comics, talking with the owner. I was in a strange city at a strange time, and the only connection I could make were through these stories, these imaginary superheroes, if you will. And, it's always been, and comic book stores and comics have just always been a huge part of me. And animation, that's another geeky. I like. I miss the good old fashioned anime.
Like, are we talking? Well, not Full Metal Alchemist, Rin. What are some of your animes that are your go-to?
I think Paul and I bonded early on over Fist of the North Star.
Nice.
Oh, huge fan of that one.
Classic.
Oh, so good.
Finally, I
like
can
it.
talk
Absolutely.
anime with you guys. Good.
Yeah.
Of course, I think Akira is just an easy one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
From-
And my kids,
really-
my kids have really gotten into like Howl's Moving Castle, and they're really digging some of the stuff that's been out lately.
I would totally agree with that. I think for me, Princess Mononoke
Yep.
brought you right. I was like, that to me is like, that was everything. It was story. It was amazing animation, beautiful animation, combined with that kind of manga feel. I just love the film. I'm a huge fan.
Have you guys
Yeah, I
seen? Have you seen Steam Boy?
No, not
No.
yet.
Check out Steam Boy. Yeah, it's set at the Paris World Exposition in like 1912, I think, or something like that. Or it wouldn't be 1912; that'd be before that because it says World War One. But it's really amazing. It's sort of a turn of the century sci-fi. It's not exactly steampunk, but really damn close, and it's just gorgeous.
Nice.
I'm looking behind me on my movie shelf here, and I've got Gatchaman, which was Battle of the Planets back in the day.
Yep.
I've got let's see, I've got Fire and Ice,
Yep.
the old President Bakshi film.
Yep. For a little while, I worked with Tom Tabaranowitz, who was one of the directors on Fire and Ice.
Oh, nice.
And then I had one more here. Where is it? It was here's an oldie but a goodie. Dragon's Lair. Come on, who doesn't have that on DVD?
Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent, sir.
I think
Not
for
really
me,
anime, is it?
it's whatever you want it to be.
Okay, good.
But for me, it was Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
As much as people crap on it, though, Dragon Ball Z was my first real anime that I watched.
Right.
And I just loved it. It was great. I got to meet some of the actors at Fan Expo, which was really nice. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z, and I've been really into Full Metal Alchemist, including Brotherhood and all that stuff. Just the story in the background with that was amazing.
What about Avatar? Airbender.
I have it. I have heard it's amazing.
I really dig it.
To see it yet.
I got into that with my 11-year-old. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's good stuff. If you like, the one you mentioned first.
Ghost in the Shell?
No, the one. You're right. That was
Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist?
Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, there is a similarity there.
Yeah.
Less screaming. There's much less screaming.
But the eye blinking sound effects are still there.
You know what it is? It's I think that really Avatar: The Last Airbender is Dragon Ball Z on Xanax.
That's great.
Just everybody just chills the fuck out a little bit.
Yeah. My daughter, my 4.5-year-old really dug Avatar, the Airbender. That was a good. She tripped her out.
But
that's really all. I'm just trying to foster a geek. I'm just trying to raise a geek as best I can.
Now, we brought up Star Wars as well, and I have to ask.
Can of worms open.
It's okay, because I love Star Wars, but what the fuck is going on with George Lucas's mindset? I mean,
He got old, that's all.
Senile? Is it senility? Because if it's senility, that'd be fine.
Well, no, I think it's age, and I'm sorry, I've only got about probably 8 or 10 more minutes here, and I would love to talk about this all day. But I think when you look at the early films, they're young man's films. It's a young man's angst. It's a young man's angst about what am I doing with my life, and oh my God, I could turn out to be a complete asshole like my dad. And it's all the kinds of fears of a young man. And then, and all of that is kind of is lost with that emotional resonance isn't there in in the prequels, and I think it's because of exactly what we were talking about before, which is the difference between doing something because you have to, because you're passionate about it and it's coming out of you, and doing something for a paycheck.
That's a great. I don't disagree with that at all. My point of view is, I think when you become successful, or people tell you you're doing something really well, well, all right. Let me say it this way. I think George surrounded himself with people that went, okay, George, yeah, sure, okay, yes, bunch of yes men, instead of people who challenged him, like his
like his ex-wife.
His ex-wife, who commented a lot about the editing and stuff like that, and the people he surrounded himself to help him with the dialogue. There's a great book called The Annotated Star Wars that talks about the original script and how it was changed on set, and different choices that were made. And I think eventually he surrounded himself with just men. And I think, actually, just to kind of bring it all the way back to FEWDIO, what I really loved about FEWDIO, what we do oh so well, is none of us quit on each other. No one looked at the other person, yeah, that's fine, go ahead and we'll just shoot that. No. John would say, well, I call BS. There's no ending there, Paul. There's no left.
You sure you want to do that? You sure that's how you want to do that?
Is that really what you want to do? Is like, well, I'm not, but it's true. And by challenging each other and calling each other out, and having to go through the process of convincing these other creatives that, this is the right thing to do, or this is the story I want to tell, and taking that and go, yeah, I could do that better, or I never even thought of that. What a great idea! And taking that and saying, oh, I'm so glad I'm surrounded by creative people. And embracing that, I think that really helped us out. I think Star Wars failed on that. I think no one told him. I'm sorry, I should say the prequels failed on that because no one told him no. No one said, this is crazy. Well, maybe they did say, this is crazy, it'll never work. But no one attacked him on story. No one challenged him to what he wanted to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the people he was working with, but it's also reality didn't come down on him. You look at the original films and how many technological problems they were up against. And I truly believe there's that aphorism that the absence, absence of obstacles is the death of art. You have to have obstacles to get over. Artfulness is about how you deal with your limitations. That's what it is. Absence of limitation is the death of art. And he had so many limitations in the early days that he had to be artful and smart and clever about getting around those. And now that he's richer than God and can do whatever he wants, he does whatever he wants, and there's no limitation, and it all comes off being blah because there's no challenge to it. There's a great, I don't particularly care for Lars von Trier. I think he's a bit of a prick. But there's a Lars von Trier film called The Five Obstructions, in which he takes his hero, who's a Swedish director named Jürgen Leth, and he challenges Jürgen to remake the same short film 5 times, each time with a different weird obstruction, like you have to make a cut every 1/8 of a second, or you have to shoot on a crowded street in India. And the challenge was, how is this now going to affect what you're trying to do? And how are you going to challenge yourself to get beyond that? And each successive time, the film becomes more and more interesting and stranger and challenging and artistic. And that's exactly what didn't happen with the prequels. There was no challenge whatsoever.
I know we're short on time here, and we're going to wrap it up actually right now. I do want to thank you both, Paul and John, for taking the time to do the show. It's been a true pleasure and really an eye-opening experience for me, for sure. But let's plug FEWDIO one more time, and if you guys have Twitter, you can plug that as well, and we'll wrap it up.
Sure. Well, you can always check out FEWDIO at FEWDIO.com. That has our anthology series Nightmare House on it. And you can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at FEWDIO Paul.
That's right. He is the voice there. Also, don't forget there is a YouTube channel which is FEWDIO.com, spelled out. The DOTCOM is actually spelled at the end of the word, and that's where the ongoing series is right now. Including there's a new presentation series we're doing where there are filmmakers that are not necessarily making the film specifically for us, but are friends and family, and so therefore. We have vetted their work, we like it, and we want to present it and make sure people see it. So that's being hosted there as well.
And if you're in the Los Angeles area on Saturday nights, you can see me performing live comedy. I do. Right now I'm doing Tennessee Williams Improvised, which is a long-form version of a Tennessee play that was never written. Or you can see me on Sunday nights at Comedy Sports, comedysportsla.com. Nice. And sports with a Z.
Yeah, because they're from the street and they don't care about spelling.
Yeah, that's right.
They're rebellious that way.
Yeah. Rebels.
Awesome. All right, I'm just going to stop this now, and thank you guys so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Good. Hey, awesome.
A pleasure, Kurt. Well done, sir.
Thank you. If there's anything you guys need promoted or anything like that, I'd love to showcase it on TGT in some way, shape, or form, be it a press release of some kind or whatever. I'm all about the creative aspect. And actually, I forgot to do my opening, which was